Okay, so picture the ultimate modern success story. You know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You've got the seven-figure income, the corner office with that panoramic view.
The custom Armani suits.
Exactly. And the cherry on top, that gleaming red Ferrari in the driveway, it's the whole package deal we're sort of conditioned to chase.
It really is. It's the American dream on steroids. Or, I guess in this case, the Canadian legal dream.
Right. But then, fast forward to the plot twist. You're 53 years old, you're standing in a packed courtroom. I mean, you're arguably at the peak of your career, and then bam.
Massive heart attack.
You collapse. And it's not just a medical thing, it's a spiritual reckoning. You realize your life is full of things, but it's completely empty of any meaning.
And that is the terrifying opening hook of the book we're unpacking today, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma.
It is terrifying.
And I think a lot of people see that title and they think it's just going to be some lighthearted story about a midlife crisis. But it's actually a surprisingly dense manual for cognitive and spiritual reconstruction.
It really is. It's a fable for sure, but the story is just the delivery mechanism for a very specific system. So we're following this guy, Julian Mantle.
The legal superstar.
He's this high-powered lawyer, a titan of the courtroom, who has that collapse and just realizes he is spiritually bankrupt. So he does the unthinkable.
He sells everything.
The Ferrari, the mansion, he ghosts his firm and just disappears into the east.
And leaves his colleague, John, who's the narrator of the book, completely in the dark.
Yeah, John is just left there grinding away at the law firm, wondering what on earth happened to his mentor.
Until 3 years later. And this is the transformation that really sets everything up.
So Julian walks back into John's office, but he's not the Julian who left.
Not at all.
The Julian who left was overweight, gray-faced, exhausted, and looked, I mean, the book says he looked about 70, even though he was only 53.
And the man who walks back in is radiant. The book actually describes him as looking like a smiling Buddha.
He's youthful, energetic, his skin is glowing, he's basically aged backwards.
Which, let's be honest, would be incredibly annoying if you didn't have a good explanation for it.
Right. If my friend disappeared and came back looking 10 years younger while I was still stressed at work, I would demand the recipe immediately.
And that's exactly what John does. And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We're not just going to recount Julian's travels.
No.
We are going to unpack the Savanan system. This is the actionable technology of the mind that Julian learned from these sages in the Himalayas.
I love that you call it technology, because when you dig into the text, it's not just, vague affirmations. It's a set of protocols. It's almost like an operating system update for your brain.
That's a great way to put it. But before we install that update, we have to look at where he found it.
Right.
Julian travels to India and eventually finds the sages of Savannah. And in the context of the fable, these are almost mythical monks living high in the Himalayas.
In a village that is literally made of roses. It sounds like something from a fantasy novel.
It does. But that isolation is the whole point. To rebuild his mind, Julian had to completely disconnect from the noise of his old life.
No news, no court cases.
No time famine, as he calls it. Just silence. And the leader of these sages, Yogi Raman, teaches Julian using one of the strangest mnemonic devices I've ever come across.
Oh, the fable within the fable. It is so wild. It's designed to help you remember the 7 virtues of enlightened living, but when you first hear it, it just sounds like a hallucination.
It absolutely does. But that's probably why it works. You can't forget it.
Okay, so let's paint the picture for you. I want you to visualize this. You're sitting in a lush, green garden. It's totally silent and peaceful.
Okay.
And in the center of this garden, there is a towering red lighthouse.
Garden, lighthouse. So far, so good.
Suddenly, the door of the lighthouse creaks open, and out walks a 9-foot-tall sumo wrestler.
A sumo
A
wrestler?
giant sumo wrestler in the garden. And he's not done. This sumo wrestler is wearing a pink wire cable for a loincloth.
Okay, this is getting weird.
He finds a gold stopwatch, slips it on, trips over it, falls down, gets knocked out cold. Then he wakes up, I guess from the scent of the roses, and just walks down a path of diamonds.
It sounds like a complete fever dream. But the genius of the book is that every single one of those, erratic details maps to a specific principle of self-mastery.
So let's decode this thing. We're going to focus on the big 3 symbols that really anchor the whole system.
The garden, the lighthouse, and the sumo wrestler.
Let's start with the garden. In the fable, the garden represents your mind.
And this analogy is, I think, the most intuitive one in the book.
I found it really easy to grasp. The idea is that most of us treat our minds like a public dump site. We just allow any toxic thought or worry or news headline to live there rent-free.
Right. But the sages treat the mind like a cultivated garden. It's all about stewardship.
If you cultivate a garden, you water it, you weed it, you give it sunlight, it blooms.
But if you neglect it, weeds take over. And in the mind, those weeds are negative thoughts, anxieties, replaying old arguments over and over.
And the text throws out a staggering statistic here to back this up.
The 60,000 thought statistic,
That's the one. The average person has about 60,000 thoughts a day.
which is a massive amount of mental processing.
It sounds exhausting just hearing it.
It is. But the kicker, and this is the part that really hurts, is that for most people, 95% of those thoughts are exactly the same as the thoughts they had yesterday.
So we're not really thinking, we're just looping.
Exactly. The book calls this the tyranny of impoverished thinking. We're just stuck in this groove of worry and repetition.
So how do we break the loop? Because just stop worrying is, terrible advice.
And never works.
It never works. But Julian brings back a few specific techniques. The first one is called the heart of the rose.
This is essentially concentration training. It's like strength training for your focus. And it's deceptively simple. You take a fresh rose and you stare at the very center of it, the heart.
You just look at the color, the texture, the design.
You start with 5 minutes. And the rule is you think only about the rose.
Which is incredibly difficult. The moment you try that, your brain goes, did I leave the stove on? What about that email I have to send? My foot itches.
Right. The mind rebels. But the goal is to train your mind to focus on that one single object, to silence the chatter. You're physically building the neural pathways for attention.
And the result isn't just that you become an expert on rose anatomy. It's that you quiet the mind enough to actually hear what the sages call the universal source of intelligence.
Exactly. And even on a practical level, it just gives you back the steering wheel. If you can focus on a rose for 20 minutes without distraction, you can focus on a business problem without distraction.
There's another technique for the mind that felt really similar to modern cognitive behavioral therapy. They call it opposition thinking.
Right. The analogy here is that the mind is like a slide projector.
I love this image. A slide projector, for those of you old enough to remember, can only show one slide at a time.
Exactly. And the mind can really only hold one conscious thought at a time. So the moment a negative thought appears, a weed in your garden, you don't fight it. You don't analyze it.
You just replace
You
it.
immediately replace it with a positive one. You just change the slide.
And you have to be aggressive with it. Julian actually used a physical trigger for this in the story, right?
He did. He wore a necklace of prayer beads. Every time he caught himself worrying or spiraling, he'd remove a bead.
It's about awareness. Most of us just worry on autopilot. We don't even realize we're doing it.
Right. Awareness precedes change. You have to catch the weed before it takes root.
And there's one more technique for the garden that I think is worth mentioning. The secret of the lake.
Ah, this is pure visualization.
It is.
The sages would literally look into a still lake and visualize their dreams becoming reality. It's based on the principle that everything is created twice, first in the mind, then in reality.
We hear this in sports psychology all the time. Athletes visualizing the perfect shot.
Totally. If you want to be, say, a patient father or confident speaker, you can't just hope it happens in the moment. You have to run that blueprint in your mind first. You have to see it vividly.
If you can't see it in the lake or in your mind's eye, you won't see it in the world.
Okay, so the garden is about mastering the input and output of the mind. Now let's look at the second symbol from that crazy story.
The lighthouse.
The lighthouse represents Dharma, and that's a Sanskrit word that roughly translates to life's purpose or your duty. The metaphor is perfect.
Just as a lighthouse guides ships when the sea is rough, a clear purpose guides you when life gets chaotic.
And there's a line in the text that I highlighted. The purpose of life is a life of purpose.
I love that line.
It makes the point that happiness doesn't come from just sitting around on a beach doing nothing. That's actually a recipe for stagnation.
Right. Happiness comes from achievement, from advancing towards something that actually matters to you.
To illustrate this, Julian tells a story about an archery lesson with Yogi Raman. The yogi puts a blindfold on Julian and asks him to hit a target.
Which is obviously impossible.
Of course.
You could be the best archer in the world, but if you can't see the target, you're going to miss.
Exactly. And the lesson is simple, but so profound. You will never be able to hit a target that you cannot see. If you don't have clearly defined goals, you're just walking through life blindfolded, reacting to whatever bumps into you.
Okay, so let's take the blindfold off. The book outlines a 5-step method for achieving goals. Step 1, we already covered with the lake, have that clear mental image. But step 2 is where it gets interesting.
Positive pressure.
Yeah, this is interesting because we usually think of pressure as a bad thing.
We try to reduce stress.
Right. But here, positive pressure means creating stakes. The sages were extreme. If they broke a commitment, they would go stand under an icy waterfall.
Until they were numb.
Okay, I am going to go on record and say I am not doing the waterfall method. That sounds miserable.
You don't have to do the waterfall. But the principle still stands. You need some cost for failure. The text suggests a public pledge.
Tell everyone you know you're going to run a marathon.
Yeah, the fear of looking foolish if you quit is a great motivator.
That I can do. Social pressure is a powerful drug. What's step 3?
You set a timeline. A goal without a deadline is just a wish. It needs a date on the calendar.
And step 4 is the magic rule of 21.
This is just standard habit formation. The idea is that it takes about 21 days to install a new neural pathway. So for 3 weeks, you have to fight for that habit. You have to push through the resistance.
And after that?
After that, the habit fights for you. It becomes automatic.
And step 5?
Enjoy the process. This is the safeguard against becoming a workaholic who hates his life. Don't delay happiness until you reach the goal. The happiness is in the pursuit.
Julian also suggests getting a dream book. Just a cheap coil notebook where you can paste pictures of what you want, write down your desires, list your goals.
It sounds a bit like a vision board, but in book form. It creates a tangible connection to what you want. It forces you to actually sit down and ask, what do I really want?
A question most people never answer. They just know what they don't want.
Exactly.
All right, let's move to the heavyweight of this story. The third symbol.
The 9-foot-tall sumo wrestler.
He represents Kaizen.
This is a Japanese concept, usually applied to, like, manufacturing and business, meaning constant and never-ending improvement. But in this book, it's all applied to the self.
And the core idea here is that success on the outside begins with success on the inside. You can't lead a company or a family if you can't even lead yourself.
Precisely. And this brings us to the idea of the zone of the unknown.
The push-up scene.
Right. There's a scene where Julian challenges John to do push-ups. John does as many as he thinks he can. He's shaking, sweating, he collapses, and then Julian forces him to do 10 more.
I hated reading that part because I knew exactly how John felt. That feeling of, I'm literally going to die.
But he did the 10 more. He didn't die. And the lesson is that our limits are often just mental constructs.
Growth only happens when you push past what you think is your limit.
You have to expand your circle of comfort. If you stay inside the circle, you stagnate. The sumo wrestler is about constantly pushing the edges of that circle.
And that links directly to fear, which the text says is just a negative stream of consciousness. It's a conditioned response.
Right. The sages weren't fearless by accident. They were fearless because they practiced doing the things they feared. They conditioned themselves to be brave. That's the essence of Kaizen. You build the character, and the success just follows.
So we have the garden, which is the mind, the lighthouse, which is purpose,
Yeah.
and the sumo wrestler, self-improvement. Those are the concepts. Now let's get into the toolkit.
The rituals of radiant living.
Yes. Julian gives John this set of rituals and says, if you do these for 1 hour a day for 30 days, transformation is guaranteed.
This is the how-to section. It's the daily routine to make sure all this stuff actually works.
Okay, let's run through them. First up, the ritual of solitude.
The pit stop for the soul. It's a mandatory period of silence, anywhere from 15 to 50 minutes a day.
And ideally, you do this in a sanctuary of the self, a quiet space in your home. No phone, no music.
Just silence. It's about stilling the engine so you don't overheat.
It sounds lovely, but in a busy house, that sanctuary might have to be a closet.
Wherever you can find it. The location matters less than the silence.
Next is the ritual of physicality. As you care for the body, so you care for the mind.
Vigorous exercise. The sages practiced yoga and walked in nature. But there's a specific focus here on breathing. Most of us are such shallow breathers. We breathe just enough to survive.
The tip here is deep abdominal breathing. If you cup your hands over your stomach and they move out when you inhale, you're doing it right.
It's about oxygenating the system. More oxygen, more energy. It's simple biology.
Which leads directly to the ritual of live nourishment. This is all about fuel.
Diet. The sages ate live foods, so a vegetarian diet. Foods created by the sun, air, soil, and water.
Versus dead foods, like meat.
Exactly. The argument is that dead food drains your energy because it's hard to digest. It takes a lot of metabolic resources, while live food boosts your energy.
And looking at the energy Julian has in the story, The diet seems to be a huge factor.
Then we have the ritual of abundant knowledge. This is for the mind.
Lifelong learning. The protocol is to read for 30 minutes every single day.
But not the news, and not trashy thrillers. Wisdom literature. Biographies of great people like Ben Franklin or Gandhi, or philosophy.
I liked the perspective here. Books don't teach you new things. They just reveal what is already inside you. It's about recognition.
And to make sure you're absorbing those lessons, there is the ritual of personal reflection.
This is the Ben Franklin method. At the end of the day, you retire to a silent corner and you review your day like it's a game tape.
What did I do? What did I think? Was I kind? Did I lose my temper?
It's data analysis for your life.
If you don't review your errors, you're doomed to repeat them. This ritual stops that cycle.
And this next one, this is the one that trips a lot of people up, the ritual of early awakening. Rising with the sun, 5:30 a.m. or earlier.
I know a lot of night owls who would argue with this one, but the text really emphasizes that it's about the quality of sleep, not just the quantity.
And there's a specific rule here, the 10-minute rule.
This is so crucial. The 10 minutes before you sleep and the 10 minutes after you wake up are the most important of the day. They program your subconscious.
So if you're watching the news or doom scrolling before bed, you're just programming anxiety for the next 8 hours?
Exactly. And in the morning, Julian suggests the laughing technique. You look in the mirror immediately upon waking, and you force yourself to laugh.
It sounds absolutely ridiculous. If someone sees you do it, they'll think you've lost your mind.
I'd feel completely insane doing that, just standing there laughing at myself in the mirror.
But the science is that physiology drives psychology. If you act happy, you jumpstart the chemicals, dopamine, serotonin. You actually begin to feel happy. It's a biohack.
Finally, the ritual of music and the spoken word.
Music to lift the spirit, which we all kind of know works, and mantras.
Mantra is Sanskrit for mind-freeing. Repeating phrases like, I am young, strong, and inspired. It goes right back to the garden. You are planting seeds of self-image. What you say to yourself becomes your reality.
So, wow, we've unpacked a massive amount here. We have the mind as a garden, purpose as a lighthouse, continuous improvement like a sumo wrestler, and this whole toolkit of rituals.
Good song.
When you zoom out and look at the whole system, what is the core philosophy?
I think it boils down to this. A radiant life isn't an accident. It's an engineered result. We spend so much time trying to fix the outside, the job, the car, the house thinking that will make us happy. The Savant system says, fix the engine and the car will drive just fine. Abundance in the outer world is just a byproduct of abundance in the inner world.
It reminds me of that empty cup story Julian tells near the end of the book.
Yeah, the Zen proverb. A professor visits a Zen master, and the master keeps pouring tea into the professor's cup until it overflows.
And a professor shouts, stop, the cup is full.
And the master says, like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?
You have to be willing to unlearn some of your old habits, like that cynicism or the I'm too busy mindset to let this new wisdom in.
Exactly.
You know, Julian asked John a question that I think is the perfect way to wrap this all up. He asks him to consider it every single morning.
What would I do today if today was my last?
It's a heavy question. It's almost a cliche, but when you really sit with it, it just cuts through all the noise. It forces you to prioritize what actually matters.
And it brings us right back to the lighthouse. If today was your last, would you spend it worrying about an email? Or would you spend it advancing toward your purpose?
So here is our challenge to you. You don't have to sell your Ferrari, assuming you have one, or, move to the Himalayas today.
No.
But maybe you can buy a cheap notebook and start that dream book. Or maybe, just for 5 minutes, go stare at the heart of a rose and try to quiet the noise.
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Or in this case, maybe a single thought.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.